Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Enrich Your Business Circle. I am super excited about today's episode because we are doing something that we don't do often. We are bringing back a guest for a part two. And if you caught part one, we have Holly, who you actually should already know why she's back. She is the founder and the CEO of Homeschool to Go, the only personalized, fully bilingual educational program in the world. And our conversation opened up so many doors that we really didn't get time to go through everything. So today we are going to dive even deeper in conversation. We're going to talk about intelligence. We're going to talk about critical thinking, and what is actually like or what it looks like to raise and educate a generation of students who now have AI and how they're using it and should be using it. This is a conversation I have been waiting for to have because this sits right at the intersection of both my world and Howie's world. Howie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here again. It's so great to speak with you. And I've seen the work that you do, and it's honestly so impressive. And this is coming from all the experience that I have working in the project-based methodology. And I see that you do follow some of those guidelines when you create your curriculum. And it's honestly, it's a pleasure. I'm honored to be here speaking with you today. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I wanted to do like a quick 60-second recap version of Homeschool to Go and what makes it unique and set apart in education right now. So can you tell the audience more about that?
Yes, definitely. So when I go to pitch my company to investors, I always start with the whole point that um, the current education system was built during the Industrial Revolution to
Hmm.
prepare students for factory jobs. And so it makes no sense that in the age of AI, we're still following that same model because what we perceive as a promising future is very far away from a factory job in this age, right?
Right.
So I go back to trying to understand how can your child reach their highest potential when they're attending an institution where everyone is following standardized practices. It's like
Hmm.
this is the level that we want all the students to be at. So this is what you have to learn, and if you're below this, you're going to get a lower grade, and you're going to have to do more of that you are not good at. And then if you're at the place where we want you to be, then you're going to get a good grade and you have to do no more of that. And in reality, in the world that we like, I can understand how that is the perfect model for feeding employees into factory jobs and into,
Hmm.
the model of following instruction and keeping kids compliant. However, in the world that we're experiencing every day, and as parents, a lot of us know because we have to go out there and make a living, right? We are seeing how all of the jobs are changing, and the roles that matter the most are those roles where critical thinking, like you were saying earlier, where creativity, where independence, and let's say self-directing really make a significant impact in the workforce, to put it that way.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of decentralization. Like the economy is going away from, you know, kids that work or individuals that work in corporate jobs for big companies. And we're seeing so many new rising companies and so many new small business owners and entrepreneurs with different passions, because in the future, in the present, actually, this is how a community evolves,
Hmm.
is by having different people that provide different types of value, and so we can complement each other, and we can purchase services, products from each other to help each other. Like, you get strong in what you can do, the way that you can uniquely provide value to the world, and then you can outsource everything else. And in that model, everyone wins.
Right.
So, why is our education still training everyone exactly the same? When I was a teacher, I saw that there was always a group, kind of like five students, that would be like the students that were outstanding. And the common denominator in those students that were always outstanding was the fact that their parents cared about their education and they had a solid foundation of work ethic and even just attention, presence from their parents or their caregivers. So that's what that's what inspired us to create a model of learning that adapts to the child rather than the child having to adapt to the model of learning. And so what really differentiates us is that we design curriculums that fit the child where they're at, not based on grade levels. Of course, that's important. Fundamental skills are still taken into account. Legal compliance is still taken into account. Like we know into our database, we have like all the legal requirements for different states, for different provinces, for different countries. So that's taken into account. But the real focus of the education of each child is based around their innate talents, their multiple intelligence tests. So the predominant intelligences, and then the dominant learning styles, the personality type, right? And then while we do that, we also make it practical for the parent. I think that's a big differentiator because in a time where the we are seeing some trends where the budget that comes from the government to invest in education is moving from the institutions to the parent. We see it in Florida, we see it in Arizona. Parents can get a scholarship if they pull their kids out of school. They're eligible for a scholarship to invest in the education of their children. So if they do that, now the parents are going to be overwhelmed and the parents are now responsible for the education of their children. So in order to deliver a high quality education for the child, it needs to adapt to the child, but it also needs to adapt to the parent, and it needs to be practical for the parent so they can sustain it. So in our intake questionnaire, we ask things like, how much of this work do you want to be independent, like your child can do without you? How much of this work do you want to collaborate with your child? How much screen time are you comfortable with? Because for me personally, I'm not comfortable with my child, 5 years old, being exposed to, more than 1 hour of screens throughout the week. But I understand that because I'm choosing that, it means that I need to be much more present. However, there's other parents that perhaps have jobs that don't allow them to have those types of standards. So they have to be okay with a little bit more screen time, but they don't want that screen time to be, dopamine, passive dopamine creation, passive content consumption. They want it to be at least some sort of content that is going to create and encourage critical thinking in your children. We also need to ask the parent, how many hours a day do you want to be able to work on your child, with your child? So we take all of these insights, and with that, we build a project and we build a curriculum that is going to strengthen the genius areas of the child so they can stand out in the world. And it's also going to respect the limitations and the capabilities of the parents to be able to deliver the education. I think that this offer that we have for the world is something that doesn't exist yet because it's very hard to offer this type of personalized experience at scale, right? But I think it because homeschooling is rather a new trend. Like the homeschooling has been around for more than 40 years, and if you count the years before the Industrial Revolution, it's been around for way more than that. But it's become like for so many generations we've kind of gotten used to the system process, right? So it's kind of like a new thing where we're seeing, right now in America, we have 5 million families that homeschool. And that number has grown significantly over the past 40 years. So I think that because this is sort of like a new trend, there's not a lot of people out there in the market that understand the problems as well. Like a lot of people are trying to replicate the regular curriculum at home.
Okay.
The same thing that they do at the school, but now they're going to do it at home. And so our approach is very different because while we're doing this, which I already described, we're also applying prestigious methodologies like they do in Waldorf, in Montessori, in Cambridge, where I worked for over 10 years. But we offer it at a much more affordable price. And if that's the desire, we can do it under 7 hours of homeschooling per week. So
Awesome. So since the last time we spoke, has anything shifted in how you're thinking about where education is going? Because AI is definitely moving fast. And what has really landed on your radar that you're currently paying attention to?
Well, I don't know if we spoke last time about like did I share with you the stats of how AI is going to be changing the jobs? Do you
I
remember
don't think
talking
we
about
I don't think we talked about that, but I definitely know that the stats about that back in December of last year, LinkedIn released a statistics of how AI is going to be changing jobs this year and the years to come.
Yes, it's like I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I do remember it's like something like 90% of jobs are going to change. Are going
Yeah,
No, they're not going to change. They're
they're
going to
implementing.
disappear. 90 like 90 or big percent of the jobs are going to disappear. But also a lot of new jobs are going to appear, a lot of new jobs. And the essential factor that we need to consider of the jobs that are coming up are jobs of leadership, of creativity, of critical thinking, things that are not necessarily easy for AI to replace, right?
Right.
So we think of AI as an assistant, an intelligence that can at scale perform repetitive jobs, that can make calculations in split seconds. And we think of services that are not replaceable by AI as the person that understands the problem. And
Mm.
so if we think of new companies as solutions. We always talk about that in the world of entrepreneurship. There's a problem, we create a solution. Now, AI can understand that problem only if the human feeds it, because AI doesn't live in the world like we do. AI feeds out of data. So we are the ones that feed the data or the prompts to find the data. And then AI can do that part. So we have to think about the new jobs in terms of leadership. Also, all those jobs that require like the presence of a human being. So I remember I was looking at some jobs, like for example, contractors, for
Yeah,
example,
I would.
in construction, like nurses, although that's probably going to change with the robots, but that's further along. Yeah, we think of these.
It's not too far along because
Yeah,
they actually have nanobots that can go in your blood now to fix different things. So I don't think that from the healthcare perspective is too far along because they are already in the process of testing and using nanobots to
yeah, I
actually
agree,
heal.
and I think from the healthcare per se, there's a lot of tech that is not infiltrating, but influencing that world.
Hmm.
But when I talk about nurses, we're talking about that's the human that takes care of the human.
Well, yeah,
I don't think that that's going to be as easy to replace with machines, because we're still going to appreciate the human to human connection. And so the skill of public relations, this skill, like these are all still super important skills that we need to be teaching our children and raising our children around, those values. um
well, I would definitely agree with that. I think that skills that are based on personal relationship are going to be the skills and jobs that you're being able to sustain.
yeah,
I also know that from a lot of the reports, I saw that things that can be automated will be where people are manually doing them. Those are the jobs that will disappear, but the
exactly,
jobs that
like
are being
administrative jobs and that type of
yeah,
stuff. Mhm.
and then the jobs that are being created are those who are able to prompt AI better and know
Yeah.
how to use AI better.
So
But
essentially what you're describing there is leadership, prompting AI, that's leadership, right? So
yeah,
that's a skill that we need to strengthen. And then the following of instructions, assisting or administrative assisting, that's the part that's going to be replaced very easily.
right. And with that, so I know there is like this fear among a lot of educators right now that AI is in technology itself is starting to make students intellectually kind of lazy, and they're thinking um of other ways to learn. So how real is this fear in your experience?
I think that this fear is real as far as the traditional school system. And I'll
Okay.
tell you why. Because the traditional school system is training instruction followers. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what AI can replace.
Right.
So as long as we can educate our children to be the leaders rather than the, the followers of instructions, like right now, AI can replace every single skill that is fundamentally like one of the biggest skills that they teach at the school system. I don't know if you're familiar with that quote from John Rockefeller, where he said, "We want our generation of workers, not thinkers."
Hmm.
And so I feel like if there was a new school system being created, which it kind of is, but it's again being decentralized. It's there's a new era of education being created, and is the opposite of that principle. Is we want a generation of thinkers, not workers, because workers can already be replaced. Like if we define workers as what we were describing earlier, like following instructions. So I think that fear, if you think that school is going to prepare your child for a promising future, you should definitely have that fear. But if you feel that you can empower yourself to help your child be a thinker and a leader rather than a worker, then you don't need to fear that, because the economy is always going to adjust itself to the needs of the current market. So as long as you're preparing your child to be a thinker, to be adaptable, to have vision, to develop strategy. Even the strategy part is something that you can do in assistance with AI, right? So like you
Right.
said, prompting AI to be able to develop to accomplish these goals, which is why project-based education is so important, because project-based education parts from a driving question, which is the problem, and then it separates it between the research phase, which you can use AI for. So you need to understand how to research with AI in a way that's competitive, like you have it mapped out in your curriculum for AI. Then you need to be able to do the execution part. That now the execution part can have some human components and some technical components, which AI can help with. But the execution part is very hard to cheat with AI completely, because you need to have a leader executing the project. Then after you execute the project, you need to have a moment of presentation. So everything that you did, that you found out and you executed, you need to be able to communicate it.
Awesome. And I know you, with their school being bilingual, does language and thinking in two different languages create like a different type of cognitive flexibility that actually helps
Absolutely.
students to be able to engage critically with AI outputs better?
Absolutely. I think there's plenty of studies that back what I'm going to say, but when a child learns a second language in their early years, essentially what they're learning to do is run two systems in their brain simultaneously. So I was even reading about how, like, in schools, ADHD children usually need to be medicated and usually get in trouble. But in the new world that's coming up, ADHD brains have a lot of advantages. They're more likely to take risks. They're more likely to try new things. They're more likely to figure things out on their own. So all of these skills are skills that are favorable. And when you run two systems simultaneously in your brain, such as a language, you have the ability to adapt. You have the ability to understand the same thing from two different perspectives. And that's an essential tool in entrepreneurship, but also in the workforce, working for projects that might be relevant in the AI era, or the age of AI, if we call it.
I definitely would say that it's an essential tool because, as you know, I've developed my own framework around this, the 5-layer critical thinking model, and at its core, it's about basically teaching people how to engage with AI instead of just accepting it as how it's given to them. And
Yeah.
from your perspective as an educator, who designs curriculum, what layers or stages do you think actually matter most when teaching this to kids or to children?
You mean like the when you say teaching this to kids, you mean teaching what exactly?
So basically like with you designing your own curriculum and doing like different stages, and I know you guys do a lot of project-based things, and it does involve critical thinking. What are like the layers or stages of it to make sure that they're actually thinking critically?
Right. So essentially, you're giving them a list of activities,
Hmm.
first to find information, then to create value with that information, then to present that and communicate it to inspire others to use that value that's being created. And
Okay.
the last stage is reflecting, which I think is the absolutely the most important type of intelligence or skill that you can develop is called referred to as metacognition. So it's the ability of think about what you're doing from a separate perspective of what you're doing. So what this means is you did a project, you presented it, you can look at it from outside of your emotional experience of I did this and I'm attached to this and I love this. You can step aside and look at it and say, this could be better, this could be better. I learned that doing this was really challenging. There must be a different way to go about it. And then having the strategy to be able to iterate in an improved way. So, for example, I noticed I had a commitment. Now I'm just going to extrapolate this to something more simple than a project. So I have a commitment that I'm going to exercise every morning. So
Hmm.
you have that commitment. Now you're going to execute it. Then you go through the week, and instead of exercising every morning, you only did 4 days. Then you go through the reflection phase and you look back and you say, well, it was really hard for me to exercise every day because 3 out of 4 days in the morning, um, I was really tired, or I had some unexpected thing come up, or I injured my knee at the gym after the fourth day, so I had to take a break. So
Hmm.
now you have to use that execution experience and look at it, draw conclusions, and iterate it now in a more efficient or more effective way. So now you're going to do it again, but you're going to do it better. So that is called metacognition, and that is the single most important factor that differentiates people that are successful from the people that are not. Is the people that can look at what they did from outside their perspective and do it again better, and then do that again and again. So that's why the reflection stage is such an important part of the project.
I love it, and especially in that being able to analyze if you overestimated that goal
Yeah,
as a part
exactly.
of it too. Using your example, where are you currently before you tried to accomplish that goal? Were you not working out at all before you tried to start working out 7 days a week? Or
Yeah,
were you working out 2 days a week and you're upping it to a higher dose of
exactly. Exactly.
exercising?
You
So
got
I definitely agree with that because I know there are so many people who make goals like that and don't reflect on it, and then they quit the goal because they feel like they
yeah.
can't
It's
accomplish
like
it.
it's like I'm not good at this. I'm just gonna give up. And that's not how you win. How you win is
Right.
understanding why, where you failed, why you failed, and how you can optimize that system so you're more likely to succeed in the next go.
Right. And so I definitely love it, especially with trial and error and creating hypotheses so that you can see what actually works for you. And that's why I kind of get bothered sometimes with using your example. I see those 75 hard challenges, and
Yeah.
then all of these people who have not worked out in I don't know how long, that have committed themselves to work out 2 times a day, and then they don't be able to complete the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it like if you think about how we've been built. like how we've been programmed, because a lot of us in our generation, we went to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in school, you get one go, sometimes two, like depends. Like some teachers allow you to resubmit, and then you get a grade, move on. So you
Right.
either pass or fail. That's it. In real life, that's not the case. In real
Right.
life, you have so many options, you have so many opportunities, right? So it makes no sense that we are educating children in this context that is so different from the real life context, you know?
Yeah, and I sometimes I wonder if that is an element of creating people to be more passive when things come around than actually thinking critically as well, with that it's a one and done mindset versus trying to make them think, well, if it didn't work, how can you figure out the way to
Yeah,
make it work?
my quick answer to that is that it's just more work. If you have to give every child a different experience, then
Hmm.
it fails the standardized model of get this massive population of children to just go through this training so we can feed them into the factories, right? Like if all of a sudden we have to give all of these children more opportunities to try different ways, like how can that be controlled in a
Hmm.
in a standardized system? It cannot. It would take too many resources, too much time, and so it wouldn't fulfill the goal. So I think that, the problem of the system is that it's not built to personalize the experience to each child, and that's what we're trying to overcome with my organization.
And so, with that being said, especially with everyone have basically their different levels of learning and their different levels of engaging content and processing information. There's a difference between a student who says, "Write me a story about a dragon," and one who says, "I want to write a story about a dragon who loses their fire." Um, and help me build the world. How would you teach like the different aspects or the different creative directions of those two students, where one says is going by instructions, whereas the other is going by something that they've creatively actually put in their mind?
Yeah, from what I know about psychological development in early childhood, I
Hmm.
think that we live in a society where they tell you like, oh, like your child needs to be independent, like right from age 2. Like moms are criticized if they're breastfeeding too late or if they're hugging their children every time they cry. And I think that, from following the teachings of PhD professionals in these type of disciplines, my understanding is that autonomy comes from unconditional support right at the beginning. So if
Hmm.
you compare two children, like you take one child that their parents were, you know, always helping them to get up every time they fell off the bike, always teaching them, showing them how to do it. That child eventually learns to ride the bike and doesn't need help. Whereas if you take a child and give them a bike and say, figure it out, that child will always need help or always have trauma around it and will start to resist it. So we implement a similar practice with our projects and with our students in the curriculums we build. To answer your question, before they write a story in the instructions, we say things like, okay, who is the main character of your story? What is the struggle that this character has? What are the strengths of this character? What are the weaknesses of this character? So these are questions that are guidance questions that
Hmm.
are easy to immediately, as soon as I say that question in the imagination of a child, they're going to be able to say something back. And with that, they already have like the initial elements that they can input into. Write me a story about a dragon that really loved to play and was really good at flying, but didn't have fire. And you know what I mean? Like it already gives them like the foundational tools to start doing that. And the more that you give those guiding questions at the beginning, the less they need it as they grow older. Where if you give a child no tools to work with and expect them to just figure out everything themselves, they're always going to need, as they grow older, that help because they never had a foundation of unconditional support in the beginning. So Guiding questions. I was looking at one of my clients the other day. She was filling out a book report that
Mhm.
she got out of somewhere like separate from our platform. Because if you ask the platform create a book report, the platform will create it from the methodology that we have. But sometimes, homeschoolers, they like to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So she was doing it from somewhere else. And she said the question in the book report that she found was like from a probably like a standardized school model. And it said, how does the book end? And the child wrote, the end.
And
You know, and she sends it to me and she goes like, what do I do here? And I said, guiding questions. What happened after the climax? How was the character different at the end from the character that started in the beginning? Bonus question, what do you think happened after the ending?
right.
Like all these questions to kind of like push that creativity to flourish, and in the imagination of the child that will do wonders. So all you have to do is create guiding questions.
But they were not wrong.
They were not wrong, they were
So
right, but the guidance they had was, yeah, that's what I mean. They were not wrong, they answered it. It does end the end,
yeah,
right? So from a logical perspective, that should be a check mark, good grade for you, standardized education. But from a critical thinking, creative mind perspective, we need more guidance there.
right. So I want to jump into our rapid fire section of the interview. And
Okay.
I'm going to ask you 6 questions and then you just give me the first answer that really comes to you.
Okay.
So, question number 1, the best AI tool for students to start with that's not ChatGPT.
um for writing, Perplexity.
Okay. And question number 2, AI in education, the biggest opportunity or the biggest threat? Which one do you lean towards?
Biggest opportunity.
Okay. One question every student should ask about any AI output before they use it.
One question that every kid should do to any AI output before they use it.
Yeah.
Um, I always say, I don't know if this is something that you do before they use it, but when you write the prompt, like for example, like, please write me a story about a dragon, I would
Mhm.
say, and please ask me questions about how I want that dragon to be. So to get the
Right.
AI to ask you questions, basically to give you the guiding questions so you can
Yeah, I definitely always get AI to ask questions, and then I also have it to give me a confidence score so it can know how well it thinks it's doing when it comes to describing and developing whatever content that's being created. Um, Finish this sentence. The student who will thrive in a world of AI are the ones who.
have the most creative minds.
The one subject or skill you believe schools are failing to teach that AI makes even more urgent.
Critical thinking.
And what does enriched means to you in one word?
In one word,
Hmm.
mm, complete.
Okay. So I got one last question for you. If you were redesigning a traditional school curriculum from scratch today, knowing what you know about project-based learning, knowing what you know about personalization, bilingual development, and AI, what would it look like?
I know this is repetitive, but I would build it exactly like we do it at Homeschool to Go Genius Lab, because that's actually what I'm doing here. I started this company thinking, how do I redesign education in a way that's actually going to propel students?
Is there something that you would throw away from traditional school curriculum?
Yes, definitely. There's many things, but the first one that I can think of is um, forcing kids to sit behind a desk for way too many hours in the day,
Okay,
and with
awesome.
and to be sitting behind a desk inside a room with artificial light. Yeah, kids need to be outside in nature, exploring the things around them, not extrapolated from them.
I definitely agree. And this conversation for today has really been exactly what I hoped it to be. It's been deep, it's been practical, and it's been definitely genuine. Exciting to talk more about education and about the tools that we have available for us with education and where kids should be learning and how critical thinking is, of course, important on every spectrum. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you one final question. If there is one message that you want every parent, every educator, and every child listening to walk away with today about critical thinking, about AI, what would it be?
I would say to never look at something that is out of our control, such as AI, like it's coming to stay. Never look at that as a threat. Always look at it as an opportunity, because wherever you put your attention, that's what you're going to see the answers come up in. Like that's what your brain is designed to do. So if you are talking, we're talking about AI, we have to deal with it. You can't just evade it like it's taking over our world, right? And
Right.
hopefully in a good way, but it will be in a good way if you see it as an opportunity rather than a.
Awesome. And now to all of our listeners, could you let them know where they can find you, where they can follow Homeschool to go and get their children into your current space?
Yes, absolutely. Please go to homeschooltogo.org. So homeschooltogo.org. And then you'll see a big button there that offers you a free masterclass. So if you're thinking about homeschooling, you're overwhelmed by the idea, that's going to answer all your questions and give you the next steps that you can follow. You
Mhm.
click there, it's a free course. And then after that, you have more specific questions. There'll be an opportunity to speak one on one with me. So that's a good place. I also want to say, when you were telling me about the skill that kids don't test, that they're even more threatening with I have a better answer for that. It's curiosity, creativity. Yeah, creativity and curiosity are similar, but I think curiosity is the seed of learning. So I think curiosity is a better answer for that one.
I would definitely say curiosity because it starts that process of
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah. So, to all of our listeners, make sure you're curious about the things that you're doing. And for those who enjoyed this conversation and think that this conversation needs to be at every kitchen table, every classroom, every boardroom right now. AI is not going anywhere. The question is whether we raise a generation that can actually use it or a generation that can actually think with it. Hallie just showed us how and what that option could possibly look like. So before you go, if today's conversation was something that sparked something in you, I have one small ask. Take 60 seconds out of your time and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It doesn't cost anything, but it means the world to us. If it's how more parents, educators, and entrepreneurs can also find our show. So just search Enrich Your Business Circle on Apple Podcasts, tap the stars and leave a couple of words. I make sure that I read each and every single word, and I'm always deeply grateful for all of the reviews that we get. Hit the subscribe button while you're there so you can make sure you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep enriching yourself.